Coming up on the Charge on Air, Orlando City Commissioners approve for more monitoring on local roads.
There have been changes to virtual work policy at UCF.
Open carry is now legal in Florida, but not on campus.
In sports, UCF women's soccer wins last night against Utah.
The Charge on Air starts now. Good afternoon and welcome to the Charge on Air. I'm Casey Stone.
And I'm Ashley Reep. Today is Friday, October 3rd, 2025.
Orlando drivers, get ready for more eyes on the road. City commissioners recently voted to double the numbers of red light cameras across town. Charge on Air reporter Camila Escobar tells us why.
Red light camera reported ahead.
Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles report says that over 18,000 vehicle crashes have been reported in the Orlando area between January and September of 2025. Orlando has more than 500 intersections with traffic signals, but only 25 of them are currently equipped with red light cameras. That's about 5%. Recently, city leaders approved an expansion under the Vision Zero plan to add 35 more cameras, more than doubling the 45 already operating in these locations. They say the goal is to have 0 traffic fatalities by 2040. Red Light Operations Manager Raymond Rodriguez says the cameras don't just catch violations, they can actually change the way people drive, especially younger drivers.
People, when they see what they did wrong, like in video, they change their behavior. They go, wow, that was me, oh my God, you know? So they especially has a really big impact on young people.
When students see this color, they might want to think twice about hitting the gas. Because for Orlando drivers, that could mean the difference between a ticket, a crash, or worse. And right here, we're at the intersection between Lake Underhill and Cimarron Boulevard, where students pass through to go to the Bright Line or the airport. And that quick decision could mean getting there safely or not getting there at all.
Officials say the cameras are installed only at intersections with a history of dangerous collisions, specifically T-bone crashes. Some UCF students notice traffic getting worse around spots like Lake Underhill and Cimarron Boulevard and think more cameras could change driver behavior. City data shows the cameras brought in over $7 million last year from citations. But medical engineering student Maddox Burr says even though they generate a lot of money, he believes it's really about safety.
I feel like lately it's getting a lot worse. Like especially on a Caysea road, traffic is definitely building up recently.
City officials say the 35 new cameras would bring the total to 80, with 15 along Colonial Drive and others in areas like Lake Nona. One proposed site is at the Caysea and Moss Park roads. Drivers who receive a ticket have 60 days to pay the $158 fine, or up to 90 days if they contact the city. Rodriguez says all revenue from the cameras goes back into operating the program, with any extra funds allocated for spinal cord and brain injury fatalities. In Orlando, Camila Escobar, The Charge on Air.
The ordinance is expected to return for a second public hearing and vote later this year. And if it passes, city officials say drivers could start seeing new cameras go up as early as next summer.
As national government shutdown enters its third day, federal workers across the states brace for weeks without pay. While most federal employees will not be allowed to work during the shutdown, employees who are deemed essential are required to show up for work. Those deemed essential, such as members of the military and airport security screeners, must work even without pay. They typically will receive payment once the government reopens, but that action will only happen once Congress is approved.
UCF has updated its remote work policy for faculty and staff, introducing stricter guidelines. Faculty and staff may work remotely up to 2 days a week. To work fully remote, faculty are required to get approval from the provost or appropriate vice president. Decisions on limited remote work are made by deans, directors, or department heads. University officials emphasize that remote work is not a guarantee but a privilege, and they must balance department needs with employee responsibilities. The policy follows Florida state law on telework for state employees and is overseen by UCF's Human Resources leadership. Final authority comes from the Senior Vice President for Administration and Finance.
As October starts to ramp up, so does this year's flu season. Flu season is officially making its return to campus this fall. The World Health Organization says there are around 1 billion cases of seasonal influenza annually. For the 2025-2026 flu season, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, says they recommend the seasonal flu vaccine with single-dose formulations for children, pregnant women, and adults. Molly Brooks, a junior nursing major at UCF, says it's important for students to take precautions to avoid getting sick and spreading germs to others.
I think just like in general years, it's always been important to get the flu shot in particular. Even if you're not going into a clinical setting, just being around people in general, especially on a college campus, it's important to protect yourself from any pathogens that you could come across, and getting a vaccine is just a good way to do that.
Brooks says it's important to do little things to keep yourself and the UCF community healthy. The UCF Health Services website says they're providing influenza immunizations for students through scheduled flu shot appointments. The CDC advises people with influenza symptoms to rest, drink lots of liquids, and get the proper treatment to relieve the symptoms.
Open carry is now legal in public spaces across Florida. The change comes after a court ruling declared the state's ban unconstitutional. Charge on Air reporter Laura Pineda shows us why this new law doesn't apply at UCF.
It started in 2022 when a man was arrested in Pensacola for openly carrying a pistol in a holster while waving a copy of the Constitution. But on September 15, judges ruled that he was protected by the Second Amendment. The court stated that open carry was the default mode of bearing arms in the founding era. Still, the ruling doesn't apply everywhere. Open carry remains illegal in schools, courthouses, police stations, airports, and universities like UCF. Professor Dr. Jacinta Gao says allowing guns on campus could have serious consequences.
First, it can have a chilling effect on speech. It could potentially limit the topics that are covered in the classroom or prevent students from feeling free to express their opinions. Second, it could hamper the police response if there is an active shooter, because multiple people will have weapons instead of just the person who is a threat.
Students like Valentina Lagos agree that UCF should stay a weapon-free campus.
I think it's great because college students, normally they are not enough mature to carry a gun and an arm in general. So I feel more safe here.
Here at UCF, despite Florida open carry new law, it is still illegal to bring firearms on campus because of university policies.
In Orlando, Laura Pineda, The Charge on Air.
There's still a need for more clarification about how the new law will work with local governments and institutions. But one thing is clear, guns are not allowed at UCF.
President Trump has recently demanded pharmaceutical companies to release the data on how effective their COVID-19 vaccine was. Pfizer is one of the main distributors of a COVID-19 vaccine that saved 14.4 million people, according to the National Institutes of Health. President Trump said, and I quote, "Many people think they are a miracle that saved millions of lives. Others disagree." The president went on to say that he had seen the data from Pfizer and other pharmaceutical companies, but wants this information available to the public. Student Alexis White received the Pfizer vaccination and believes that it did help her body fight against the virus.
As sick as I was when I got COVID, after I got the vaccine and the booster shots, and I really think that it did boost up like my immunity and everything during the time of the whole pandemic and everything.
For those wondering, people under 65 had an 84.3% better chance of protection against death with the Pfizer vaccine, according to the Public Institute. Vaccination data is public information and can be found online for anyone who is interested in learning more.
I hope we start experiencing some cute sweater weather sometime soon. I want to bring out my Uggs already.
Especially with spooky season approaching us, my fall wardrobe is begging to come out of the closet.
Melenny, hit us with the real numbers.
Absolutely. There's nothing like wearing a crew neck sweater during the fall. So now let's take a look at our current conditions. So currently we have a high of 84 degrees with a humidity of 54%. Winds are blowing eastern northeast with 20 miles per hour with a chance of rain of 50%. Back to you, ladies.
Thanks for that update, Melenny. Coming up next, one UCF Night sibling duo makes a splash at a tandem roller coaster event in our backyard.
Plus, this year marks the 25th anniversary of Puerto Rican Proclamation in Florida. So stay with us, we'll be right back.
Florida may never look the same again. Every day, issues like pollution, climate change, sea level rise, They threaten the beautiful nature here in our backyard. But here at UCF, you personally can receive funding to make a change. Students of all backgrounds are encouraged to apply for the Gulf Scholars Program. Funded by a grant from the National Academies of Sciences, this program prepares future leaders to solve some of the toughest issues our environment will face, all through team-based research and education right here at UCF. Participating students can receive mentorship from faculty in multiple fields, paid travel, and the chance to make up to $5,000 per year for each year in the program. Plus, Gulf Scholars get the chance to go on unique adventures around Florida's Gulf Coast, showing them exactly why it should be protected up close. Undergraduate students in any major can apply at gulfscholars.research.ucf.edu.
Bring it.
Time out, guys. I'm late to dinner. My mom's gonna kill me. Catch you guys later.
Mom wants us home.
Okay. Bye, guys.
You guys need a ride?
Sure. Yeah. All right. How about some one-on-one?
I gotta go eat, man. Sorry, I'll see you later.
The Red Bull Tandem roller coaster event took over Altamont Springs for the first time last weekend. One pair of knights decided to make their mark in true UCF fashion. Charger and reporter Nicholas Hernandez has more on how it went down.
Spirit Splash came early for a few nights thanks to the inaugural Red Bull Tandem roller coaster event last weekend. The competition is simple. Ride your tandem bike through the roller coaster and ring the bell at the finish line, or plummet into Crane's Roost Lake in front of a crowd of over 40,000 people. With the event in UCF's backyard, the Knights made sure to represent. Suited up in foam armor, the sibling splashdown team took their passion for their school and put it on wheels. Their tandem bike featured a Spirit Splash duck carved out of foam insulation attached with PVC pipes. But actually riding together required some training. Diego Formoso from the Sibling Splashdown team is a UCF alumnus. He says that he and his sister pioneered a way for teams to train.
So we took it to the Orlando skate park in the Milk District and took it down the ramps and everything. The people running the skate park wanted to take a photo with us. They had never had a tandem bike there. And then the folks here, the other 30 teams, saw our TikTok and started to go to ramps too. So you started to see videos popping up.
Behind me is the Red Bull Tandem roller coaster course that teams of two have been preparing for this entire time, including the Sibling Splashdown team. Now, not only was their bike inspired by UCF, but it was also made possible by a few friends at the student union.
Marlena Formoso is a social studies education graduate student at UCF who originally saw the event advertised and decided to form the Sibling Splashdown team with her older brother. She says that they wouldn't have been able to do it without UCF's bike repair team at Bike and Gold.
I don't work there and I'm not on the cycling team, but when I went to have a tire replaced, they actually told me that they had been planning on doing the event and they weren't able to because of a race this weekend. So they got together and helped me build the bike, and it would not have been possible without them.
Marlena Formoso says there was nothing to be nervous about since ducks can both float and fly. But in the end, they actually rolled their way down the roller coaster with a performance that even had Orlando Magic Hall of Famer Dwight Howard saying,
"We give them a 10, go Knights."
While it wasn't enough to take home any silverware, the Knights didn't walk out empty-handed. Out of 30 teams ranked on time, creativity, and skill, the judges awarded the win to Team NFT Boombox featuring UCF alumnus Joey Iorio, giving UCF fans another reason to cheer. In Orlando, Nicholas Hernandez, The Charge on Air.
Be sure to dive into The Charge online to read more on how the siblings made their splash.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. According to the National Breast Cancer Foundation, cancer deaths rates have dropped by 44% since 1989. This progress is attributed to improvements in early detection, better treatments, and increased public awareness. The American Cancer Society is hosting a Making Strides event against breast cancer event at Lake Eola Park on October 25th at 7 a.m.
The NFL announced Sunday that Bad Bunny will headline the Super Bowl 59 halftime show. This is the first time an artist of Puerto Rican descent will be headlining since Jennifer Lopez in 2020. Bad Bunny gave credit to those who came before him and, quote, ran countless yards to allow him to score a touchdown. Yadel Valdez is a member of the Puerto Rican Student Association, or PRSA, at UCF. He says he's excited to see Puerto Rican culture highlighted on such a large stage.
But it means everything that just one person is going to be on one of the biggest world stages and going to be just singing, not just for us, but to everyone around the whole United States, which I'm pretty excited about.
Valdez says people appreciate the variety of Bad Bunny's music, even if they are not familiar with it. Bad Bunny will perform at the most watched sporting event in America on Sunday, February 8th, 2026.
If you're looking to take a trip to Waterford Lakes, you're in luck. UCS Parking and Transportation Services just announced that they will now offer a Waterford Lake shuttle service on Thursdays. The service will run from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. throughout the fall semester. Pickups and drop-offs will be located at the normal grocery shuttle stops on UCS's main campus and will bring students right outside the Waterford Lakes Regal Theater. Whether or not this service continues in future semesters is dependent on ridership during this pilot period. Students can track the app Translock to track the shuttle.
This year marks the 25th anniversary of Puerto Rico Day proclamation in Florida, originally signed on April 4th, 2000. Now students and faculty can view the document on display at the UCF Puerto Rico Research Hub. Former Representative Anthony Suarez launched Puerto Rico Day in Tallahassee 25 years ago. The proclamation was signed under the Governor Jeb Bush to celebrate Puerto Rican culture. Suarez recently presented the original proclamation to the UCF Puerto Rican Research Hub, recognizing its leadership on issues affecting Puerto Ricans in Florida. Dr. Fernando Rivera, director of the UCF Puerto Rico Research Hub, tells us why Puerto Ricans play a major role in Florida's history.
And you might be asking why? Why Puerto Ricans here in Florida? Well, according to the latest numbers, about 1.3 million Puerto Ricans make Florida their home, which is by far the state with the biggest number nowadays, surpassing New York since 2017. So the population continues to grow, and we're a big element of the society here in Florida.
Dr. Rivera says the hub is the only center in the state university system of Florida dedicated to Puerto Rican studies. Suarez hopes to see the UCF Puerto Rico Research Hub continue to grow and strengthen its impact in the community. He says it's about helping Puerto Ricans who move to Florida feel at home and have a real stake in the state's future.
Thinking about heading outdoors today? After the break, we will tell you everything you need to know about your forecasts.
Plus, UCF football plays its first Big 12 game at home. Don't go anywhere. The Charge on Air will be right back.
Hate is loud. It gets clicks. It gets attention. Hate, however, is actually quite small. But love is the majority, filling up something far more important than any feed. Love fills our hearts, our lives, our every day, with understanding, empathy, and compassion, leaving hate to become what it truly is, a whisper.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. Those 9 months were also 273 days of planning. What about your daughter's first costume party? It was out of this world. And let's not forget those barbecues you plan in detail for your family and your more vegetarian by the day best friends. That's surprise party for your parents' golden anniversary? You get the golden planning. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
Welcome back, everyone.
It's time to check in with student meteorologist Melenny from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University for a look at the national forecast.
Weather across the nation this weekend is going to be very scattered, so let's start out west. We have a significant pocket of moisture from an upper level trough that's going to be bringing some heavier pockets of rain for California and for Nevada, up to 2 to 4 inches of rain in these areas. On the other side of that trough, we have a high pressure system. From sinking air causes rising temperatures 20 to 25 degrees above our normal for this time of year. If we look at the rain over the next few days, for today we'll see some heavier pockets of rain towards the west and some potential for mountain snow over the middle Rockies. And then that rain is going to continue to move over the northern plains as we head into Saturday. For us in Florida, we are on the opposite side of that high pressure system, and we will see some below normal temperatures with some increased chance for rain this weekend. But I'll let my friends at UCF give you the full outlook.
Thanks, Bella. Now let's see if I can wear my cute fall boots to the tailgate tomorrow.
I know. I'm trying to have a good day, hair day in my tailgate photos for once.
Let's check in with student reporter Melenny Gallardo to see our local forecast.
Thank you, Casey and Ashley. So yeah, we're still feeling that heat here in Central Florida. You might want to leave those sweaters at home for the moment being. Let's go ahead and take a look at our current temperatures. So in Gainesville, we have a high of 85, and in Palm Coast, a high of 83, in Leesburg, a high of 83, and in downtown Orlando, a high of 84, Winter Haven, a high of 84, and in Melbourne, 83, and finally in Tampa, a high of 87. So you might want to hang on to those summer outfits because I don't think fall is quite here yet in Central Florida. Let's go ahead and take a look at our 5-day forecast. So starting off on Saturday, we have a high of 83 and a low of 74 with a 69% chance of rain. On Sunday, we have 83 degrees as our high and a low of 74 with a 72% chance of rain. On Monday, we have a high of 83 and a low of 74 with an 83% chance of rain. On Tuesday, we have a high of 85 with a low of 73 with a 73% chance of rain. And lastly, on Wednesday, we have a high of 87 and a low of 73%, and as well 41% for a chance of rain. So yeah, guys, tomorrow we have a UCF football game. You want to make sure you bring your umbrellas with you for that tailgate just in case. Keep your Uggs tucked away. Now let's go back to Casey and Ashley.
Stay tuned to hear about how our women's soccer team played last night.
Plus, UCF football takes on Kansas in its first Big 12 game at home.
Love is a lesson that doesn't end. It knows no conditions, so you better buckle in. Love keeps you on your toes. It never stops, only grows. Love isn't easy. It's a commitment, especially when they're being their most resistant. Love is being prepared for the journey ahead. Love doesn't let any concerns go unsaid. Love is finding the right seat so you can take a breath. But remember, love isn't lax. It always double checks. Check that your kids are in the right seat at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Love protects.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Dad! Okay, here we go, throw it! Yeah.
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Nice.
But I've got to shoot how crazy it is at UCF right now.
Good afternoon, Knights. My name is Laura Pineda, and I'm here to bring you all the latest of the UCF sports updates. Let's see what's happening. UCF women's soccer team came out on top Thursday evening when they beat the Utah Utes 2-0. The Knights started the first half off strong, taking the lead earlier in the Honoka Hamako scored a penalty. Liz Warden also scored in the first half after powering through Utes' defense. The second half saw UCF's defense shut down the Utes. Knights goalkeeper Genesis Perez finished with 7 saves. Coach Tiffany Roberts Sadahak said to keep the team positive, she had the girls visualize making goals and describes the team as resilient.
I think they're a team that really believes in their abilities, and they're a team that stick together. I think when you have togetherness and you're hungry, I think those are two great, characteristics of a championship team.
This marked UCF's first Big 12 win at home for the season. The Knights now have 8 wins, placing them 22nd in the NCAARPI ranking, backing them as they prepare to take on Kansas State on Sunday. Both men and women's soccer play this weekend. The men's soccer team plays South Carolina at 7 p.m. Eugene Stone Stadium. Women's soccer takes on the Kansas State Wildcats at home at 1 p.m. on Sunday. It will be alumni weekend for the Knights, and they will welcome back players from the previous teams. The Knights face off against Kansas Jayhawks in tomorrow's Big 12 home opener. UCF is coming off its first loss last week against Kansas State and will look to bounce back in their home turf. In the first half, redshirt junior quarterback Taven Jackson left with an apparent shoulder injury. He was able to return and finish the game and is expected to start again on Saturday. You can catch the Knights play at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN2. That's all we have for sports this week. Stay tuned for more updates on UCF sports in the following newscast. Back to you, Caysea and Ashley.
That's all the time we have for now. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can always keep up with us during the week on thechargenews.com.
We'll leave you with a live shot of downtown Orlando, and stay tuned after the show to see another episode of the Golf at Night podcast produced by the UCF Golf Scholars Program. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful weekend, Knights.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Golf and I'm here with Sergey Kelly, and today we'll be exploring the natures and wild of the Florida coast. Along the Gulf Coast of Florida, thousands of native species inhabit a stunning mosaic of coastal ecosystems. Some of these species serve as native keystone species, wildlife that helps stabilize and support a multitude of wildlife, such as the gopher tortoise, Florida panther, mangroves, and crocodilians. On the other end are invasive species that are introduced into the Florida wild from human activities such as escaped pets or shipping containers. From the Gulf Coast full of underwater seagrass meadows, coral reefs teeming with life, majestic sandy oak forests, and winding mangrove systems, this region is home to an incredible variety of wildlife, and today we'll be exploring that with an expert, Sergey Kelly, with a passion for showcasing the wonders of Florida's natural coast. He's the founder of Florida Keepers, an organization that gives a voice to the wild, advocating for nature when it cannot speak for itself. Whether he's running shoreline surveys, diving into coastal habitats, or trekking across estuaries, he's constantly documenting Florida's natural phenomena and its diverse species. We're so excited to have you in the studio today, and to kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought your passion to Florida?
Yeah, no, it's great to be here. It's great to be here. Honestly, it's just exposure to Florida since being young. Remember, like in the Florida Keys and the flats, fishing there, and then just growing up, and now especially, living full time in Florida, it's just, several years, it's just seeing each year more of it's lost. And especially when you just spend so much time in the outdoors, you see things that you can't replicate through just telling someone, and it's just getting that exposure, getting that media, getting that film out there is great. But it's just such a sad story when we're seeing all that being lost, So just having that passion to be out there, seeing amazing stuff. I mean, Florida's pretty much the only place like it in the world, and we're losing it. So seeing it while it's still there and preserving what we can is really, really important.
Was there any literature, media, or other wildlife conservationists that helped you inspire to become what you are?
Oh, yeah. I mean, hands down, for sure, Steve Irwin, the GOAT. Also, like, more contemporary, Forrest Galante. He does a lot of, like, stuff with near extinct animals, and goes around the world, kind of the same thing, just looking in the most crazy areas. So those two for sure have really, and obviously I did college, fish and wildlife, so that was that background, but inspiration for sure, Steve Irwin and Forrest Galante.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah. And what is special about the Gulf Coast of Florida to you?
I think, honestly, it's just one of those areas where you have, because obviously it's a very slow slope compared to the other side, so it's a very different environment. I think obviously its mangroves are kind of its defining characteristics. It's mangroves, it's shallows. You have a completely different array of species. How would you say? For me, it's the mangroves. It's just that flat estuary ecosystem where you have things that don't exist anywhere else in the world. And also on the East Coast, it's very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you're exploring out there, how do you like to explore? Do you dive? Do you run? Yeah. All that.
I like to do it all. I like to try to see what I can see if I'm running, diving, hiking, walking, whatever it is, wading. So obviously mangroves usually mix of diving or wading. Sometimes kayaking too. Like I'll kayak out to a place. If it's a walkable area that's good, I'll walk it. If it's a deeper area and I can go dive it, I'll dive it. So it's really whatever, because you're going to see different things when you do. Like the wading, you can get closer to rays and stuff, but you have to watch out not to step on them. When you're diving, you could get closer to, you don't want to get too close, but get closer to a manatee or a dolphin, because, they're going to hear your vibrations to the water when you're walking. So really adjusting it to whatever the animal is, and also to what you want to see. That's the beauty of it. You can actually kind of selectively choose which activity to see what animals.
And is that based on ecosystem, or do you go also at different times of the day, different seasons? What is like that?
Oh, for sure, both. For sure, yeah, ecosystem. But yeah, definitely, I mean, the beach at night, anywhere along the Gulf or on the east side is going to be very different at night. It's going to be different in a rainstorm. It's going to be different during a hurricane. I mean, like going right after a hurricane is one of the most interesting times to go anywhere in the ecosystem, because everything's thrown about. You might see an animal that's not supposed to be there. It just was thrown over there. So yeah, for sure, obviously at night you get a whole different array of things that you just can't see in the day.
What are some of the strategies that you bring to nighttime surfing?
I mean, honestly, a lot of it is...
Or precautions you use as well.
Oh, okay. Precautions for sure. I mean, one is just like the basics is having the right lights and having extras and batteries. Like especially if you're at night on the beach, you don't want to lose your red light or like have it die and then be, because you don't be using a white light on the beach. So stuff like that, which is basic. You have that ready, you have water, have all that stuff. Being good at, honestly, if you can have some familiarity with using the stars, the moon, location, where you're on the beach, or like sometimes I'll mark like where I entered the beach, either use a pen on my phone or just physically draw a line in the sand per se. And watching not only the water, seeing what could be approaching, but watching the shoreline, seeing what's on there, seeing what's coming down from the shoreline. Mangroves, obviously, if you're in the water, you gotta be very careful because there's rays and there's stuff that can be moving right onto you.
Stingray shuffle.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
All right. So also during the night, there's also invasive species that are pretty active, such as the feral hog or the Burmese python.
Yes.
Do you happen to see those often?
Yes, I've been charged twice by hog. Those are, I see them a lot. Yeah, they're very, very, you can get very dense areas where there's just tons of sow, tons of just groups of them where, I mean, they can readily breed. The sow can have tons of a litter, and then just within a couple years they're breeding, and then these areas really, like the state, obviously hunters can move some out, but again, it's so dense in some areas, obviously. Even just hiking a trail is one thing, but hiking through essentially like the bush, just straight through the wild, there's tons of them. Generally, though, if you get charged, you just make yourself loud and yell at them, Burmese python, for sure. Especially they've gotten more, there's an argument that they're getting more of a stronghold on that west side of Florida, the western glades and up, essentially. Yeah, I've caught several of them. Had nothing too big yet. I want to get, a 16-foot this year would be great. But yeah, they're a growing problem, especially. And yeah, both of those way more active at night. And also at night, you have to be more cautious around them too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In current events this week right now is the Burmese Python Challenge that Florida does. So for a week, they host a challenge. I think it's no guns, no animals. You really just have to use your Florida wild hands. And there's prize money is it the person who catches the most or the biggest,
Yeah, there's a few categories, but
okay.
Yeah, it's like you want to get the most and the biggest.
Guys.
Yeah, that would be the goal.
So things like that really help control those invasive species populations here in Florida because they do outcompete so much of our natural wildlife, so I think that's really important. Earlier you were talking, during your nighttime surveys, you use red light instead of white light. Can you explain why you do this and how it helps protect our wildlife?
Yeah, so using the red light on the beach, it's a less powerful light than white light, obviously, and even on a person, but especially to animals that see less light than we do. It's going to be less blinding, and obviously, even with the red light, you don't want to be putting it on the animal too much. And obviously from a distance, and it's one of those things where you don't want to be obviously hitting the animal or like running into it or whatever, or just seeing it from a distance. Quick glance with the red light helps. But also one thing to note is obviously with red light, you're only going to see a certain array of colors. Generally, like for example, like yesterday I was looking at where a coyote had dug up a sea turtle nest. But yellow won't show up on a red light because it's too dark and it won't show up on the light spectrum. Right. So then if you look around, there's no animals, it's all good, there's nothing that you can blind. You closely use a white light on what you need to look at specifically, that's fine. And then I could see the yolks and the embryos just all laying there. So you definitely want to always have that red light, have extras, because you'll see people at the beach, maybe they don't know, maybe give them the benefit of the doubt, but either way, white lights on the beach are not the best idea.
And because a lot of those animals use the moon as a natural light, it can confuse them and put them off track, right?
Exactly. It's the same reason why like many parts of the state have the ordinances of how many lights can be near the beach. And those are really good at helping the effects of white light be mitigated.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What other precautions and mitigations can someone do who's either looking on the beach or a coastal habitat? Just as a civilian, what kind of precautions can they use when viewing wildlife?
I think the basic, honestly, I'll just start with know where you parked or where you came in from. Because it's one thing to like, oh, I came in from this trail. I remember that, like, it looks like that entrance and there was this tree here. That's going to look way different when you've been out for an hour or two, you're a bit exhausted, and you're trying to find your way back. So just making sure you know exactly where you came in from, wherever, from the beach access or whatever. For viewing stuff, you want to take things slow. Like, obviously, I run on the beach, but, like, if you're looking for wildlife, the best way is actually to be slower, to be more aware. It's not about, like, let me just, quickly, frantically look around, like, let me rush into the water after something. Let's just take it slow. The animal is going to be very cautious and not want to be near you if you're doing that. And, like, if you're waiting in the water, even at night in the mangroves, stuff will go right by you. So don't want to freak out. Honestly, if you're very skittish around animals, maybe take it a bit slower. But generally, you know, animals will get close to you if you're quiet and calm. Obviously, stingray shuffle, all that stuff around, you know, those type of animals. In Florida, yeah, there's parts that are certainly more crocodiles than other parts, but generally you're going to be pretty fine unless you're like going around, you know, Cape Sable, deep in the Everglades down there. If you're around here or like on the Gulf Coast just parallel to here, chances are so low you're going to see a crocodile. If you do, though, it's awesome, and they're likely not going to go out and attack you, despite what we might hear.
Have you had any interesting experiences with alligators or crocodiles during your explorations?
Yeah, I mean, definitely more of gators. Like, I've had some get a little close. Like, I'm just, like, looking at it. They'll, like, turn around and investigate, you know, and then you're like, all right, I'm going away. A lot of times, honestly, they're just sitting in the sun right in the trail. You can go right by them. Like, there's been, like, a few, you know, 13-footers. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but knowing that it's a big animal, it's just trying to get some rest. It's not trying to, like, gators don't actually consume that many calories, so they're not going out and try to, like, eat a deer, then a boar, then a person each day. They're just really, they can survive on one small meal for several days. And that's like most reptiles. They're not these huge carnivores, you know, animals that are trying to take out everything.
Yeah.
Crocodiles, not so much, just because there's less of them. There is a point around Cape Sable I'm trying to get to where you can see groups of crocodiles on the beach. Like if you pictured something from Australia or Africa, there's similar places like that, and Florida still, it's just you have to go very deep in the Everglades. It's not going to be, you know, you can see them about around marinas and stuff. There's a few famous crocs down there by like Flamingo and a few others. They're cool, but like seeing them in the wild, like picturesque is really the goal.
One precaution some might take is when in brackish water. A lot of animals can't see very well, and there are a couple mishaps that humans can get hurt. But that is just one of the things that you have to do when you're looking for wildlife, is you're in their habitat. Speaking of habitats, a lot of the wildlife habitat is getting destroyed due to overdevelopment. Would you like to speak on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially Florida's facing, there's been a few population booms in Florida. So I guess the biggest was during the after the Second World War and then during the Cold War. A lot of stuff moved down here, a lot of military families, and you had like those small, just local areas kind of grow up a bit more. And then the 90s, you had another one. But now what we're seeing, it isn't necessarily the same of like we need houses for people that are here. It's they're trying to build more houses than for the people that are still even moving here. Like Cape Coral, the housing market isn't even going that well. Like there's like 12,000 something homes that they're deemed unsellable, and whether it's by the property value, by this whole flood insurance mishap by the state and developers, it's making where we're not just developing for the sake of Floridians anymore, and it's so obvious that it's from, you could say, outside interest, just people trying to leverage, you know, the debt, financial markets against Floridians. And what we're seeing is huge swaths of Florida, like the Gulf side, Panhandle, not as much, but still, but especially South Florida and this side of Florida where people want to be, they're just building at a rate where they think people are going to come in and snatch those homes, but they're not. And especially we have a big concern with Floridians, and this is really a cool phenomenon. I think that's really only been birthed in the last maybe 5 years, even maybe 2, is it's a, what do you call, bipartisan, apartisan, people just realizing we can't have our backyards being stripped away like this at this rate, you know, and we're having our politicians from the top, even local like county commissioners that are crooked, they're not able to see that, and more people are joining forces just to say, we don't care what your other beliefs are, but we need Florida to be somewhat Florida still, because if we develop everything, and you probably know this, you go by developments and these new stuff, and it's just not Florida, you know, and it's not wildlife.
Yeah. It is really about staying together as a community, no matter party or belief, and working together. What are some of the things that people can do to protect these species' homes?
Yeah, I mean, so on the first part is like your own individual action, like just being aware of what's out there is good, you know, being responsible when you're out in the wild. There's tons of conservation organizations that you can either help or give time to. There's marine ones like, you know, Moat, there's Sanibel ones, there's Loggerhead and West Palm, there's a bunch of Gulf Coast ones. You can just look it up on Google Maps or in your area, wherever you are, honestly. And they obviously, you know, donations, time, volunteering, all that. On like the kind of being more civically engaged, for sure, a lot of these decisions happen not by your state representatives, but by just your local townships, your city councils, your county commissioners. And you'd be surprised what those zoning decisions are. So even if you're able to take, a couple hours out of your Tuesday and go to a local government meeting, it can have a huge impact because some of these politicians, let's assume their heart isn't in the worst place. Giving them more of a reason to be on the side of Florida is always going to be better. Maybe they're looking for a crowd, like a good stand, like, all right, I have to realize that these are what people want, and I can't just play this middle game of, either pro-developer, wildland developer, or just, you see a lot of politicians kind of playing the middle road. We're like, I don't know enough. We'll let them develop. Oh, no, my bad. So giving them a reason like, no, this isn't okay. So, and again, it can be an hour meeting. You go there with this either sign, you're respectful, all that can mean a lot.
Awesome. So educating yourself, standing up for it, and just showing up.
Yeah, and like word of mouth too. Just like, I mean, a lot more Floridians are connecting online. Obviously, social media is big now, but just face to face, telling more people like, I saw this new development. Did you hear about this? Oh yeah, and then organize something. Yeah.
Are there any legislative bills that you want to talk about?
Yeah. So right now, like the most recent one. So Senate Bill 180.
Okay.
So they pushed that through, and there's a bunch, but this is the most recent one that's probably most pertinent, is that one. The idea was we want to help speed up hurricane recovery. So we're going to help cut some red tape, which would inadvertently and now explicitly help developers essentially build and do what they want. The problem is, and this is like from where I'm coming from, my perspective from Florida Keepers and many others are saying this is the next step in the line of some system of the state they're using to develop more of the state. First, it was the state parks fiasco last year that was, finally defeated. Then it was the Guana thing with the land swap, stuff with certain departments of the state. But this is the latest measure where it's like, now what they want to call burdensome are the most recent, like civically passed. For example, in Orange County, they passed the rural boundary last November. 73% of people voted for it, like in favor. So it's democratic. It's very obvious. This bill would essentially say that could be a burdensome measure towards hurricane damage repair. So we need to like get rid of that, override it. So what would really happen is a developer could come in and be like, well, let's just build here and like we're going to take out this burdensome law. So that's one where it's just, and it's really weird because it's like Florida, whatever side you're on, it's like, this is the free state, we love it, we like our, whatever. But we're seeing Tallahassee, we're seeing these state politicians take more and more away from local areas, especially local areas that are resoundingly pro, wildland. And it's not just wildland anymore, it's agricultural land that either what used to be citrus or still has cattle. And obviously, probably well aware, but like cattle being on land is still way better than, 5,000 townhomes.
For sure.
Especially if you want to rewild it or add it to the Everglades or add it to a park. It's a very big difference.
Florida ranches have been around for centuries. So.
Oh, yeah.
Townhomes, not so much. Well, Sergey, today I think we've had a great conversation about our native and invasive species, what we can do, what problems they're facing, and it's been great having you in the studio.
It's been great to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So for our listeners, you can find Sergey on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You have your diving profiles and your regular profiles and your Florida Keeper profiles. So make sure you guys go check that out. You can really learn a lot of things and see Wild Florida in action. So I think that's a great way to stay informed.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys, and we will see you in the next episode.